Let's talk more about it. Joining us now, he, of course, covers Major League Baseball for USA Today. He is our friend Bob Nightengale, and he was back with us here on GCR. Bob, it's Glenn back in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you as always. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks, Don.
You have a gut. My gut tells me that while I think the Orioles should consider not even selling as much as like doing the Rays thing where you try to both buy and sell, where you try to maximize your roster and maybe you trade Trevor Rogers, but you also try to acquire some pitching that maybe you have control of. What does your gut tell you at this point about what the Orioles are going to do between now and Monday?
I think they're going to stay relatively pat and believe that they still have enough to make the playoffs. I mean, the American League is, let's be honest, hasn't been this weak in decades. So, there's so many teams, but 24 teams now that are within 5 games of a playoff spot. And, we saw what happened last year with Cleveland and Detroit, where Detroit just took a nosedive and lost the division. In Cleveland, they traded Shane Bieber and still made the playoffs when they came back from the dead. We're seeing what Boston's doing. So I think teams look at this, including the Orioles, and say, well, you know what? We still believe in this team. Let's go after it.
They have a lot of holes. If they are going to be a relevant, not to your point, yes, everybody's in it, and maybe you could sneak in, but to be a team that could actually do something in the playoffs, they've got a lot of issues. They've got a lot of bullpen problems. Their outfield is a giant zero at the moment. Can they be aggressive the other way? Are there enough pieces available to even justify trying to really try to address some of these holes? What really is available on the market right now?
Well, yeah, there isn't that much. I mean, Tarek Skubal will be. I mean, the Tigers are making that easy, losing 3 in a row here, 6 games below 500. There's not. They do have young position players, and obviously the Seattle Mariners have starters, so you could do a deal like that, just like we saw with the Nationals and the Boston Red Sox, where you're trading away pieces while still going for it. So Baltimore could do something like that. Because Seattle needs a bat, and they got pitching to spare.
I don't think they're going to be in the Skubal market, and really the argument is that like the Orioles, their issue isn't necessarily their starting pitching, with the caveat being that the guys that are pitching well all kind of have innings problems that you're going to have to deal with at some point. Bob, I guess my broader question is like, what is the deadline really going to look like? I just alluded to, there's only a few teams that are definitively out of it, and they don't really have a whole lot of desirable parts. What is the next week going to look like? How explosive is the deadline actually going to be?
Well, I mean, Skubal certainly helps it. And without Skubal, I think it'd be a very dull deadline. I think there's going to be a lot of, smaller moving parts, but not big names. I think it'll be, more dull in general. I think we had like 63 trades last year. It was wild, but, not like household names. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a year, if you're going to have a bad year, this is a year you want to stink, because it's such a seller's market, and you're going to get a ton for guys who aren't that good. So, yeah, I remember everybody's kind of in the same boat, particularly the American League. It's different than National League. Are you really going to go all in to be a third wild card team so you get your brains beat in by the Dodgers or Phillies or Atlanta? You're not. But the American League, there's not a powerful team there. Like you can be like Texas Rangers a few years ago. You just get in the dance and you can be the last one standing.
I just alluded to my theory that based on what you just said, Bob, like I think that if you were to shop Trevor Rogers, there would be a heck of a market for him, considering how well he's pitched for the last couple of months and the lack of, other than that, not everyone can get Skubal, right? Only one team can, and everybody always wants pitching. I think that you're right. I don't think they're gonna do it. But what might the market look like? Is there a chance? You could make him a qualifying offer at the end of the year, but I would think that there's the potential that if you did put him on the market, the returns could be far more significant than that.
No, I agree. The return would be better than a draft pick for sure. But then it's like, okay, if the Orioles, what are you doing here? I mean, they got a ton of prospects. At some time, you got to win. Who cares how many prospects you have? win at the major league level. This window's closing faster than they thought. I mean, when they won, 101 games a few years ago, won the division, made the playoffs the next year.
Right.
There's no way they should be sitting out 2 years in a row. And what are prospects doing? They're helping you at the major league level unless they're playing the big leagues. So I think that the fans too would be disgusted, and certainly the players, like, are we trying to win here or not? You only got 40 guys on a 40-man roster. You got to trade away some of these prospects at some
Bob,
point.
I 100% hear you, and a lot has been made. We don't even know if there's going to be a Rule 5 draft this year, but like you don't have enough spots in your 40-man for all the guys that would need to be on the 40-man next year. And I do think ultimately that they'll try to make trades because of it. But I keep coming back to kind of saying, but the comparison to the Rangers, can this Orioles team do that? Could they do that? I just don't see it with this group.
But you look around the American League. I mean, does anybody scare you? Nobody.
I
mean, Yankees are completely flawed. I mean, who knows if Aaron Judge even comes back? They don't scare you.
I mean, 100%. The team that scares me is Boston. Like right now, I would say.
Yeah, right. I went through there. Boston could, and they were dead and buried. Yeah. I mean, they were ready to sell off. And but what Boston's doing, it shows you how easy that can happen to Baltimore and anybody else too.
Man, I love that you're optimism that you're expressing, Bob, and I want to believe you're right. Boy, it would require suddenly Gunnar Henderson waking up and being Gunnar Henderson again. Like, it would have to start with that being there's no path forward for the Orioles that doesn't involve Gunnar Henderson suddenly being the guy that he was supposed to be coming into the year. Bob, how much do you feel like, I just alluded to, is there going to be a Rule 5 draft? How much have you sensed that the uncertainty of the offseason, of the work stoppage, and whether there's even going to be a next year, how much do you believe that factors in for not just the Orioles, but everyone around baseball right now?
Well, I think it pumps the brakes a little bit on teams. They're going to turn around and trade your top prospects, in the sense where if there's a salary cap, there's going to be nothing more valuable than young guys not making any money, because you need to squeeze those guys in. So I think that's the only thing. I do believe there'll be a season next year at some point. I'm not saying 162, but at least 140, 130, something like that. But it's going to require some missed paychecks for people to see who blinks first. But I think those guys are the valuable pieces, where it may be tougher to get a top draft picks or top prospects. A lot of GMs hide behind the prospects, like you can tell their fan base, hey, look at our farm system. But hey, you want to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, you'll be the cover of Baseball America. You want to have a parade or not? The Orioles have always had a ton of prospects over these years. You gotta use them to go get help. And that's what the Houston Astros did when Mike Elias was with Houston.
I'm with you.
They went and you got Garrett Cole. They got Justin Verlander. At some point you got to make the big moves.
Bob, is there an outfield bat? Like, it's funny because I keep seeing like Luis Roberts' name being passed around, and I'm like, that's what the Orioles have. The Orioles have a bunch of guys that aren't very good, that they had hoped were going to be good. Why would they want another one of those guys? Is there, like, there are people that are telling me that Taylor Ward might be the best outfield bat that you could acquire, and the Orioles have that right now. Is there an outfield bat? I mean, the Orioles outfield is awful. I mean, it's stunning how awful the Orioles outfield is, and it speaks to maybe what you're alluding to, which is they've held on to their prospects, hoping that they would become things, and they just haven't, obviously. Is there a difference-making outfield bat that can be had if the Orioles are really going to go for this?
There really isn't. I mean, you could be creative with Pittsburgh for like O'Neill Cruz, but why would the Pirates be trading him unless they believe he's never going to live up to his potential? That sort of thing. There's a couple bats like Mickey Moniak is playing well, for the Rockies, and so is Jake McCarthy, but not. Like you're saying, not that big impact bat. I mean, could you talk the Dodgers into trading Teoscar Hernandez? That's possible. But then you're thinking, okay, what the Dodgers know that we don't. Why are they willing to dump a guy like this?
By the way,
So
I would be interested in Moniak specifically, right? Like, and now somebody would say
yeah, he's available. Yeah.
I would specifically be interested in Moniak, and I would assume, like, because he's got another year, that it's going to cost you something, but I wouldn't think that it would be overwhelming, would it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You just bounce around, and he's finally having a breakout season. Then he got hurt, so no, it wouldn't cost much at all in terms of prospects. And that's what the Rockies are doing. It's one thing for the Rockies to try to get as many prospects and build that system up, but the Orioles already have that. They don't need more prospects.
It's so, Bob, I know what you're saying. Like, the conversation really comes down to me. It's when I say I don't think that they should sell for the sake of selling. I really do think they should try to channel what the Rays were once upon a time. And Mike Elias the other day said, well, we just kind of want to be good all the time. Like, at some point, I think that requires, I've been using this phrase roster maxing, which I hate. It's such a young person term. But, like, I do think you have to maximize your roster at some point. And I get the argument with Rogers that, like, boy, why would you trade away and I don't know that this team can do a lot. And if he's not willing to sign, can you use what you get from Rogers to go get the guy that replaces him next year if you're not signing Trevor Rogers, right? Like, that's sort of can you do what the Rays are always so good at, which is, trading away Shane Baz for 4 prospects and then being able to replace him with another 17 more pitchers and constantly being able to do this on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, they went and got Nick Martinez, who worked out perfect. I think it only cost him $10 or $12 million. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Orioles are not going to be in the Scooble sweepstakes. They're not going to pay $400 million for him. So, where's the next Trevor Rogers? You might as well just keep the guy you have. I mean, if you wanted to, you could sell him off and then re-sign him as a free agent, like the Yankees did with Chapman that year with the Cubs and brought him right back. But, you're playing with fire then. Who knows if that works? And you're also, the thing is, there's still a third of the season left. And, you're not going to refund a third of the season ticket holders' money back to everybody. And you got to go down that clubhouse and say, hey, sorry, guys, we waited to wait flat.
Bob, I hear, but that only matters if those guys are going to be winning baseball games anyway. If they don't, then
that's what you got to make. Make a move. At least tell the guys, hey, we still believe in you. Okay, rough 2 months.
I hear you.
Hey, the Red Sox, didn't give up, and look what happened. I just think the American League is so wide open. There's no Dodgers, there's no Atlanta, there's no Philadelphia. I mean, just get in there. It's so mediocre. I mean, when's the last time the American League's been as bad? I can't remember. I really can't.
No, it's been a very long time. You are right about that. Bob, what's the other? I think the part of this conversation that we're not talking about. Everybody keeps saying, "Is Mike Elias on the hot seat?" And when they ask me, I say, "I don't know. I don't." Obviously, whenever David Rubenstein speaks publicly, he says wonderful things about Mike Elias, but clearly no owner is going to come out publicly while the guy's running his team and say, I'm not sure this guy knows what he's doing. Like, that's not going to happen. What does your gut tell you about whether or not Mike Elias is on the hot seat and whether or not he should be on the hot seat in Baltimore?
Yeah, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I don't. And one thing is that if he's on the hot seat, if you didn't believe in him, then why you let him just conduct an important draft? Why are you letting him go through his trade deadline? So I don't believe he is. And I think Rubenstein has even come out and praised him publicly. So if Rubenstein wants, all he's got to do is tell Elias, hey, we're trying the prospects. I want to win. I want to win now. Make it happen. And then if it doesn't happen, okay, then you make a change. But I would think he'd be safe for next year.
Bob Nightengale, you're, of course, following him on Twitter at @BNightengale and USA Today, usatoday.com. Bob, is there anything else that we can plug for you, sir?
No, I just came back from Cooperstown, saw the great Orioles there, and Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken, and company.
I know that's always a special
fun time.
Bob, can I just ask you this? Is there any awkward, and I'm not trying to take shots at anybody, because this is not like I don't think guys aren't deserved. Is there any awkwardness at all at this point with the Hall of Fame that, like, really good players are getting in and, some of the greatest players in baseball history remain on the outside looking in? Is there any awkwardness, or does that, like, is that all on the outside and at Cooperstown nobody thinks about it whatsoever?
They'll talk about it privately, not great guys not getting in, but more on really this guy's a Hall of Famer. You guys voted him in, and some of these other guys, didn't. That sort of thing. Almost like it's not the Hall of very good. So you get some of that, but not. You're not hearing guys say, "Hey, where's Barry Bonds? Where's Roger Clemens?"
Yeah.
Those sort of things, or even Kenny Lofton, or that. You only hear that, and all you hear is your little private grumblings like, man, you guys, the standards are getting lower here. Particularly pitchers is like, you sure? Yeah.
Man, it's funny because like I don't. To me, I'm fine with Jeff Kent being in the Hall of Fame. I am like it's totally good by me. It's just the juxtaposition of part of Jeff Kent's greatness was because of the guy that was protecting him. Like it's that juxtaposition is tough for me to see Jeff Kent in, but Barry Bonds not. And I get it. We all know why. I understand, but it's still very difficult for me. Just like that visual is a tough one.
Sure. I remember the writers never voted him in. It was that contemporary committee.
That's true.
He never got more than 45% of the vote.
That's a good point.
I voted for Kent. Just his numbers were the best by any second baseman. It wasn't like he played his whole career with Bonds. He bounced around. So yeah, I can certainly see that. And I vote for Bonds and I vote for Bonds and Clemens every year.
I hear you.
But where I don't vote, I do not vote for Alex Rodriguez or Manny Ramirez because there was testing then, there were rules then. And, for those guys that violated, and they were suspended.
Can I ask?
Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens didn't break a single rule.
Bob, how'd you handle the Ortiz thing when it came up? Like, how'd you handle that?
I voted for him because he was part of that, the anonymous test. It could have been false positive. It could have been, but the fact I still go on. There was no testing back then. There was no rule broken. Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds weren't suspended a day, weren't fined a nickel. And even Ortiz, that was anonymous drug test just to decide, okay, are we going to have drug tests or not? If he had been tested positive, and even if he missed 5 games, hey, you're out. You hurt your team.
It's interesting. That's interesting.
Or Bonds and Clemens just helped their team. And hey, there's a handful of guys we voted in the last 10 years who are huge steroid users. we let them in, but they didn't. They never got caught.
Bob Nightengale, always appreciate the conversation, sir. I know it's going to be a very busy week for you. Thank you for squeezing us in. Let's talk again real soon. All right.
All right. Look forward to it. Take care, guys.
Thanks, brother.